And so you act as though the entire world is like you, and it is not. And so I think it's like people who have traversed worlds have the most accurate view. They see heaven and hell together as one thing. And they're like, okay, these are the different conditions that exist, and I need to be able to navigate all of them. And so that's what I'd say like what I'm thinking a little bit about. And also, if I have a son, trying to make sure that he doesn't feel like he has to beat me to be worthy, and making sure that he would know that I am proud of his effort above all. And that, to be fair, it means I'll still have super fucking high standards for effort, but that is how he wins in my eyes, and shows courage and shows persistence and consistency and things like that. Those are the things that I'm thinking about right now. But to loop around to the original question, that is why I don't want to win the lottery. And it's also, I think, a bit of a worldview question, because if we see life as the path we take and who we become along that path, then it's like saying, would you like to have a video game and as soon as you open the game, it says you won? That would be a bad game. And so it's like saying, do you not want to play anymore? That being said, in my current condition, if I were to win the lottery, I already have the credibility that I can build things and I know how to make money and all that stuff. And so it would really just act like just a lump sum, call it loan that I don't have to pay back from the universe for me to just like move, 5 years forward, which would be nice, which I'm totally fine with. But at that moment, when I didn't have it and I didn't have the proof, I didn't want it. Now, so anyone wants to hand me $1 billion, you're welcome to, in cash, totally good with it. But it was just because it serves a different objective now, and it doesn't prevent me from walking the path that I have to walk to get here. Because the person who wins the lottery, who has nothing, is very unlikely to have the skills. Like there's a magic card that I have. It's my favorite magic card of all time. It's called Burning Wish. And said, they wish for a weapon, but not for the skill to wield it. And so like just getting $1 billion, that's why whatever it is, 80% or whatever of lottery winners have lost all the money by 5 years or something. It's because like, it's just potential. But if you don't have the skill to wield it, it's nothing.
I want to touch back on something you said a moment ago. You grew up with a dad that pushed you hard. You said the moment your dad was proudest of you was when you were your saddest.
Yeah.
How do you make sure your child's happiest moments are also your proudest ones?
I would say that I would reject the premise just because it assumes that must happen or should happen. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. But because this is what I was saying at the beginning, like all of this hinges on what do we define a successful parent as and what do we define a successful child as. If a successful parent means that they have a happy child, then that is one definition. If a successful parent is a useful child that contributes to society, that is another definition. Those are not mutually exclusive, but can be. And so I think it all that's why I'm saying like that is what I'm thinking the most about right now. It's like, how do I define success in each of these roles? Because I think once that's clear, at least clear for me, and people for sure disagree on whatever I come on because they'll have their own permutation, which I would say by all means, live your life. So when you are starting out, you want every customer to be worth it. And so I think one of the mistakes that happens when people are earlier is they don't sell expensive enough stuff. And so like, if it's very hard for you to get a customer, then you better make sure that customer is worth it, which means instead of thinking about scalability, we think about how basically potential money made from every person is what you want to maximize. And so that means that potential value created has to be maximized, which means that we might do unscalable things in the short term in order to generate cash flow. And so I'll give you an analogy and then I'll give you the steps, but, or not an analogy, a story. But when I started my first gym, I did personal training with one client, and that client came 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week, which is a super client. And I ended up making, I think it was like $4,000 or $5,000 a month in total from that one client. And that client and that model of me just doing one-on-one like that obviously doesn't scale. But I was running my gym, the business, all around that. And the gym, I would just take the cash and basically reinvest in more equipment, or I'd spend more on ads to get more people in, whatever it was. But like I lived on the $5,000 a month that I was getting from the personal training client. And so the fastest way to get to $100,000 is not the fastest way to get to $1 million or 10 million. And so this is the big misconception with the question. And so like, if I wanted to get to $100,000, I would go to a business and say, and the thing is like, I have already done this because I've already lost my money before and had to go do this. So this is what I did. I went to a local business and I said, what are the packages you have? And then I said, what's the cheapest that you're willing to deliver those packages for? And I said, okay, if I go get you customers and I sell it, can I keep this percentage of what I sell if I go get them and I sell them? And then you get the customer for life after that. And as soon as I had some businesses that said yes, I then got them customers and I kept the money and then they delivered the services and got customers for free. And so when I lost everything, I made $100,000 the first month after I lost everything. And so within the example, it's like I did that in 30 days. And so you can absolutely do that. It's just that you have to work like a maniac. And fundamentally, I had an offer that I knew worked for a specific local business, which was a gym. So I knew I could run a weight loss challenge and I knew I could spend money on the ads and I didn't have to spend a lot because, if you can get 10 to 1, you spend $100, you have 1,000. And then after you have 1,000, you spend 10. Now you spend 1, you make 10 and you're good to go. Well, today versus when my child is an adult, I would say are different situations. I would say for today, it's never been easier to make money because we have these tools that are giving tremendous leverage to people who have work ethic and skill. And so barriers to entry are getting completely flattened, which is amazing. It's democratized access, but what it's really done is also just made it more competitive. And so one of my favorite lines in The Wire is, Cuddy, was a hitman, comes out of prison after 15 or 20 years. He's an older guy, doesn't know what to do, goes back into the game. He then is told to like go do a hit with some other guy, and it goes the wrong way, and they're sitting in the back of the car, and he says, "Man," he's like, "the game's changed." And Slim Charles looks at him and says, "No, man," he's like, "the game hasn't changed. The game's the same, just more fierce." And so I see that in a lot of ways. Just the way that the economy, the way that business, the market hasn't changed. The fundamentals are still going to be the same. It's supply and demand. Scarcity is still going to drive behavior. It's just that the variables around the core fundamentals will change. And so that's why I think like adaptability is a core thing to learn, which I just see that as like being able to change behavior quickly when new conditions arise. And so today, a lot of money can be made digitally without nearly the amount of labor as before, and you can run it a lot more efficiently, which I think just there are more people entering entrepreneurship than ever before, which I see as largely a good thing because the most efficient organizations are single person run. Like if you just think like there's so much waste in larger organizations because of coordination of people. And so, like a perfect world of efficiency would be that every single person has a business that requires no one else, that everyone have their own freedom, everyone, delivers, valuable services to other people. That's awesome. I think there's a world of more and more of that will happen in a world where, humans have no inherent value, from a quote utility perspective that a robot, cannot do. I think that we'll do what we've always done. Like we'll figure out something else.
You said 18 years from now, it'll be radically different.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to guess, like,
what
might that look like?
Dude, I have no idea. I think my guess is it would be the same as me making up a reality. And I don't think there's too many variables. I mean, let alone like, it's like trying to predict like what stocks can go up tomorrow. There's so many things that can happen between now and then. And there's also some things that I don't think are necessarily going to change. Like, for example, like I think basis is a question which I like thinking a lot about, which is rather than saying like what is going to change, I think it's more valuable for someone today to ask what is going to stay the same. And so I think that humans will still fall in love. I think that humans still value stakes. So I'll give you a simple example. Like if Mr. Beast makes a video and he's, puts $5 million in the middle of an island and invites 10 influencers to go compete for it. Those influencers can't be AI influencers. They can't be fake. And if that $5 million isn't actually $5 million and you just have cartoons competing for fake money, I don't think anyone cares.